On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks, quote-unquote, fall to the Los Angeles Clippers, and we get some growing pains for Dereck Lively and Daniel Gafford. What do we see from them and more on today's Locked On Mavs?
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast
No one is
Network.
dying.
Your team every day.
And welcome. You're Locked On to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everyday or making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to our free Locked On Mavs newsletter, the one-stop shop for the latest Dallas Mavericks and NBA analysis straight to your inbox. Yesterday, I sent you all the stuff about Rick Welts. Thought there was some interesting stuff about that. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me, as always, on the postgame, the postgame prodigy, showing up to work today. What you got for me, Slightly Biased?
You know, we're all dying. Oh,
Eventually.
well, do you believe in the theory that we're not actually from Earth and oxygen's actually poisoning us, and that's why our lifespan is 70 years?
That's a sci-fi movie. You could sell me on that.
About it.
You could sell me on that.
About it.
That's the things we talk about when the Mavs don't play their stars and then end up losing a
Oh,
game.
they play.
Today's episode, we'll get into the Mavs loss to the Clippers. We'll talk about playing without Luka and Kyrie. We'll talk about everything we saw from Klay Thompson, Spencer Dinwiddie. I thought we saw some decent things from them, but then we'll start here slightly. Let's start with, it's probably the worst game I've seen, at least this season, from Dereck Lively, where Dereck Lively put up some numbers where you look at his numbers and you go, okay, 13 points, 7 rebounds. He had 2 assists, 3 blocks, 5 of 5, hit 3 of his 4 free throws. You're like, okay, showing me some stuff. But I thought this was a really rough game for Dereck Lively. He made some uncharacteristic mistakes. He had some issues with guarding Zubac one-on-one. He beat him in the post a couple of times, some bad fouls in that. And I just think that if you're going to start with anybody, it's him. We talked about him being one of the most important players on the team. Him and Gafford combined, though, it's a really, really rough game from both of them.
Yeah, I think I have to sit down and go through the games, but that's in contention for being maybe the worst game this duo has played as just like a tandem. And obviously, without your two main playmakers, the bigs are going to suffer a little bit. And the Mavericks offensively,
Yeah.
I mean, how much when Dereck Lively was on the floor, how much of their offense was Dereck Lively operating out of the high post? And
Oh, yeah.
running dribble handoffs or
lot on
cutting. I
him.
mean, it was like pretty much the entire offense, it felt like. So,
Well, it was so much so that they couldn't even create offense when Lively wasn't on the court. And the Gafford, I was monitoring the Gafford and Lively minutes where even in that third quarter, I think Lively was a +2 in that terrible third, and Gafford was like a -13. It was because of the offense that they could create.
yeah, and I mean, there was no real chance or no real tries at isolating or anything like that. I mean, there was only deep in shot clocks whenever the Clippers played those handoffs really well that it got to those points where guys are trying to create for themselves off the dribble. But no, I just thought Zubac gives these two problems, and it's this kind of dilemma where Zubac he's huge. I mean, he's massive. He's a real legit 7-footer, and he's big. Like, there's just not a lot of guys like him. He's got great touch around the rim, and Lively's just too skinny to really muscle up with him. And he tried a few times, body him up. He got called for some fouls. And Gafford, I think, is too small. Like, he's too short to really go to war with Zubac. And Zubac was just feasting tonight. I mean, he's had a great season. But we remember in that playoff series last year, Zubac was feasting as well. So, tough one for those two. They needed to be better tonight if the Mavs were to win this game. But, their back was up against the walls anyway.
Yeah, as soon as we learned that Luka and Kyrie weren't playing, you go, this is kind of a schedule loss. Maybe they can get something weird happening and figure out a way to get a win.
It's the first game in 4 days. I keep saying scheduled. That's not a scheduled loss.
It's a bad term, but it's like a schedule loss that the Mavs scheduled themselves. Oh, these guys aren't playing, so then it's like, okay, we have scheduled that this is going to be a loss because these guys are not playing.
When you take over the worst team in the game and you schedule Oregon week 1. Like, I'm scheduled this loss myself.
Just taking this one out. Yeah, It was one where they were just, I put quote unquote Mavs. Like, it wasn't really the Mavericks team. If you don't have Luka and Kyrie, you don't have your two stars, and if you don't have either one or the other, then you're really going to struggle offensively. They struggled defensively, especially in that third quarter. It really broke down for them. But if you're also not going to have the backbone of your team as the two bigs be successful and do things for you, like Kid. In the last couple of minutes, when it was a last-ditch effort to try and get something going, he went with Maxey at the 5, and Maxey had not been good the whole game, basically. And so that tells you, if anything, how much these two guys struggled.
Yeah, I mean, the Maxey minutes, and Maxey offensively has reached a dangerous point, I think. Where it's like, I mean, he had a drive baseline where I don't remember who was under the basket, but it was a wing. It was like a 6'5", 6'6" guy. I think it was Amir Coffey maybe. And Maxey's just like, just go up with that, man. Like you got a great chance at either drawing a foul or finishing that, and he passes out of it. He's reaching a dangerous point where it's like he doesn't even look to score. That's when it gets really dangerous. And that's true what you say. Is him being in desperation go to the small ball unit is really a testament to how rough it was for the center duo.
Yeah, because Max he wasn't even doing anything offensively, and I agree with you. I'm at the point where I'm like, all right, let's just give me Omax in the backup 4. And tonight they were down Luka, Kyrie, also Hardy, also Exum. Like, they were missing a bunch of guys, and so Kid had to change up the rotations a lot and play extra guys. But when everybody's healthy, just give me Omax instead of Maxey, because he's just a negative on offense at this point. Defensively, he'll still give you something here and there. He'll do some little things, but it's just not enough to warrant getting playing time at this point. But the growing pain for Lively, where does he go? Because I think part of it was the uncharacteristic mistakes, stuff that we're not used to. Now, yeah, maybe he was running a ton of handoffs. He was running a ton of different, pick and rolls and stuff. And maybe it was the volume of how much he had to run that affected him. But some of those mistakes, and then guarding Zubac and that, where do you see him go? What area do you want him to work on after seeing a game like this?
I mean, it's part of just still being such a young player where I didn't think offensively he was bad or anything like that. It was just this stretch in the third quarter, maybe the early fourth quarter, that, he had a couple of quick fouls on Zubac. He had one where, he's trying to body him up, and part of that's just going to have to come with getting stronger as you get older and you age and you grow into your body a little bit. He's 20 years old, so this is some of the weakest he's going to be in his career. Like, he's going to continue to get stronger, and he'll do a little bit better bodying up some of these guys. But it's also, too, he had one where he got caught in the air, and Zubac's, just easy and one. Like, those are the ones. And, those are killer plays because he had back-to-back fouls on Zubac. Both of them ended up being and ones. So those are the ones that was really massive stretch. Yeah, that was a huge swing in the game. So it's stuff like that, and that's just going to come with growing and playing more and just not being 20 years old. But, it's stuff that can hurt the team from time to time now.
That stretch you just mentioned, those two plays back-to-back, Zubac posted on Lively, and Lively got, and then he just went one-on-one, backed him down, and Lively fouled him.
That was just being too small.
Then the one where Zubac caught it, Lively jumped in the air and kind of landed like sitting on his shoulder. That was another foul. That was the one you mentioned before. That was right after a Mavs 12-4 run where the Mavs had cut the lead to 8. It was 16 late in the third quarter, and the Mavs cut it to 8. They're kind of getting some momentum back, it felt like. And then those two plays happened in sequence. You go, oh, they just let the air completely out of the room right there when you get those two easy plays like that.
Yep, and you're exactly right. I mean, when you're shorthanded and you're trying to claw your way back into the game, a swing like that is just a huge gut punch, because it's just, it's going to be a struggle for you offensively in this game to pull anything. And I want to say real quick, I keep saying, God, the Mavs offense looks so terrible without Luka and Kyrie. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, most teams, you take away their two best players, it's probably going to be a little rough and ugly.
Yeah. Coming up, I'll tell you why it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, and why there's a couple things to take away from this game, and then we'll talk about how the Mavs lost this game in a couple different areas. We'll talk about that and more.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks Daily Fantasy made easy. All you have to do is go to Prize Picks, see what is available for you. If you're in Texas, you can play Prize Picks. You can play it, and you can now win up to 1,000 times. I almost read that as 100. It's 1,000 because I didn't believe it at first. 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Make the holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money on action while watching your favorite sports. See what you can get at Prize Picks. All you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players and more or less on their stat projections. They give you a stat. Let's say Luka 28.5 points. If you think he's going to get more than 28.5, you think he's going to get less than 28, pick one of those and then combine it with a bunch of other things. You can do it. This would be really fun on Christmas. There's a bunch of NBA games. There's an NFL game as well. You can combine them, do a bunch of different things like that, make that your play. So join now because this holiday season, PrizePicks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Pickmas. Picksmas? There's an S in the middle. Picksmas. So go check it out at PrizePicks. Download the app. Use that code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Play it with the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Also brought to you by Rocket RX. Today's episode is brought to you by Rocket RX. If you're ready to boost your confidence and take control in the bedroom, Rocket RX has the solution. Imagine feeling more prepared and performing at your best. Rocket RX makes it simple and stress-free. Rocket RX offers FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction at a lower cost than branded alternatives. No more uncontrollable doctor's visits or pharmacy trips. Everything delivered straight to your door in discreet, plain packaging, so nobody's going to know. It's just discreet. With Rocket RX, you'll get trusted care from real U.S. clinical team complete with a quick 100% online consultation. You can get your free prescription today. Visit rocketrx.com to get started now. It takes only 2 minutes. Right now, our listeners can get 40% off your first order. 40%. When you use the code LOCKEDONNBA, that's rocketrx.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for 40% off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. Rocket RX, better sex made simple.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, our listeners. If you listen every day, you're part of the Raccoon Squad. Check the QR code for different ways to follow the show. You can get text from us with the Locked On Mavs Insiders. We send you a bunch of notes and stuff all throughout games and all throughout the week and all that. We'll send you every single rumor we see. Go check out Slightly Biased YouTube channel. Great stuff over there all the time. All right, Slightly, let's talk about things for the very first time about this game. Not that the internet completely crapped out on me here at the AAC, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. But Spencer Dinwiddie, Klay Thompson, they got some stuff going on offense. In a game like this, without Luka and Kyrie, you kind of expect the offense to completely tank it. In years past, it had completely tanked, and it didn't do very well today. But Dinwiddie and Klay at least did some things in this game that you're like, oh, I would love to see that kind of play, that kind of action when Luka and Kyrie are back.
Yeah, I mean, Klay's we've kind of talked about it on this show. Klay's synergy with the two bigs, you see that all the time with the dribble handoff game, and you know how he reads the defenses, and when the bigs roll to the rim or slip out of those screens, he makes the right passes. He even had a couple passes in this game, you know, reading the low man and the help defender and skipping a pass out to the corner or to the wing. So those are all things that are really encouraging for Klay. He didn't, you know, he wasn't great from 3 in this game, 2 of 9. But I thought he played a really good game. And Spence, same thing. You know, those guys, we've seen this from Spence throughout the season that he's a more than capable ball handler. You know, it's when you start to get to, well, if he's the main, if he's the main guy for you, well, that's when you start to get into some problems because he just doesn't have the individual one-on-one creation skills that Luka and Kyrie did. And you felt that in this game when the possession started to get deeper into the shot clock. That's when things really went badly for Dallas.
Yeah, when they couldn't get into a couple actions early. I saw Bobby Carralla actually tweet this. There's a graph of how quickly the Mavericks got into a first action, and it's at a high from the last 3 or 4 years. Like 2 years ago, took them. They only had like 56 plays or something where they got into an action within 8 seconds. And this year they've already passed that already. Like they've been getting into things faster than in the past. And when the Mavericks don't get something good early, then all of a sudden they just fall back on, all right, Luka and Kyrie, ISO, and get something done. The Mavericks are one of the best isolation teams in the NBA because of those two guys. And when your offense devolves and turns into it like this without Luka and Kyrie, all right, it's Dinwiddie. Go chuck up a shot. I had 2 listeners come up to me during the game and say, Dinwiddie's got to stop chucking up shots. And I was like, well, he kind of can't because this is when you don't have Luka and Kyrie, what are you going to do? Like, what's your other option there? Someone's got to take shots. And honestly, like the Dinwiddie of 3 or 4 weeks ago would have had nothing going in this game. He at least looks pretty good and was creating some stuff in this game, and I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't. You're without Luka and Kyrie. Like the offense isn't going to be good, and some guys are going to take shots that maybe you don't agree with. I mean, that's just how these games are going to play out. So I thought too. One thing for the Mavs offensively, that was bad because I think that ends the good talk about the Mavs offensively in this game.
Probably.
Their transition offense was putrid in this game.
The Mavs,
that was some of the worst. They averaged half a point per possession in transition.
7 points, fast break points.
Second percentile in games this year. Like it was it felt like they were credit to the Clippers defensively for getting back and playing good in transition. Kevin Porter Jr., who stinks, but he
in many ways.
Yeah, he made a really nice play in transition in this game to break up a lob that Klay telegraphed for the moment he got the ball to the other end of the court coming down. You knew he was throwing up that lob, and he made a good play on it. So, yeah, I mean, just a rough one.
It was definitely a rough one for the Mavericks. Yeah, they struggled in a bunch of ways. They fought early. Like in the first and second quarter, they played them almost even. Mavs were only down by 1. The Mavs were up by 7 halfway through the second, and maybe it was the Clippers just the malaise of playing a team without their 2 stars. Like we see this all the time in the NBA, where a team plays a team that's down multiple starters or stars or whatever, and then all of a sudden they lose or they don't play well until the last couple of quarters. But Mavs, I thought they fought really well. They played really hard through this one, and then that third quarter, it just blew up. Their offense just stalled out, and it kind of started with it was 63-63, 7 minutes left in the third. Kid checks out Lively, checks out Gafford, Dinwiddie's out, Jason Gortman comes in, and then you have the play where Jason Gortman and Chris Dunn were going back and forth, kind of tussling back and forth, where Gortman was playing up on him, and Chris Dunn was trying to go through like a screen or something, and he bumped into him. Chris Dunn didn't like that, so he pushed him, and then Chris Dunn's walking away from Jazz, and Jazz walks up behind him and steps on his heel, almost the same way as Marcellus Morris against Luka in that Clippers playoffs a while ago, except for Jazz didn't mean it. and so he stepped on his heel, and Chris Dunn turns around and like puts his hand right on his throat and pushes him, and they reviewed it for, I don't know, 12, 18 minutes. Felt like forever in here. And I thought they were just going to call a flagrant 1 or a tech or something, and they called a flagrant 2, and they kicked him out of the game. At that point, it was 66-71 after the free throws, all done. And then after that, it was, a couple of minutes later, it was 69-82. Clippers had gone on a 21-6 run throughout the last couple of minutes there.
Yeah, and that sequence right there was a lot of things wrong with this game for the Mavs, because you get the flagrant 2, Chris Dunn's out of the game, a taunting tech on Jazz. I don't know how he managed to get that one.
I don't know. Maybe after the play.
And then he got 2 free throws, but he went 1 of 2. Harden made the technical free throws, so you don't get any points out of that. And then you don't get a basket on the next possession. And then it kind of felt this game if the Mavs go down by double digits, this game's over.
Yes.
Like, it didn't feel like they had the juice to overcome a deficit like that.
It felt like a football game where you'd have a bad quarterback. You're like, we have a game manager quarterback. Dinwiddie and Klay were the game manager quarterbacks in this game. It's like, all right, if we keep the lead and maintain this, we can play enough defense and like limit them enough so that we can get it just enough that we need to win a game like this. And if they were ever going to go down, all of a sudden you have your quarterback throw a ton of passes, and they didn't have the horses to do that.
Yeah, I know. That's a really good comparison, where it's just like this had to be kind of a defensive slugfest game for the Mavs. Either that or catch, make 23s and just be like, what the hell just happened? Like, how did we just get gamed by, Quentin Grimes made 7 threes tonight, but that didn't happen. And the Mavs defensively completely and totally collapsed in on themselves.
Well, and the threes too. You get beat 14-7 on made threes. That's 21 points in the Clippers' favor. You barely ever win games like that in general, with your stars or without your stars in general. On that killed them really.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. It sucks to say. We've said this about several games so far this season, but there's just not a lot you can take away from. There's really not. Like, there's the big problem we touched on earlier with the 2 bigs and how they played tonight, and maybe there's. I've seen this go around Twitter that Lively maybe hasn't had the season that we've all thought that he could. I think Lively's been great. Honest to God, I like. Maybe there people had some all-star expectations.
Yeah, if you had that,
not going to happen probably, like, ever in any universe. But I think he's been fine. But tonight was definitely a rough one for those 2.
Yeah, it hasn't been the Lively leap into all-star form type guy where all of a sudden, and we've even been talking about, we talked, Luka, Isaac and I talked about yesterday that PJ is the 3rd most important player on the Mavericks, for sure. There's just no going around it, right? And we thought,
the record without him speaks for itself.
Right, and then the offseason, I would have said Lively was going to be the 3rd most important player on this team this season. And so he's been leapfrogged by PJ as most important. He hasn't really taken this huge leap. Some people expected threes. We talked about that all summer too, if he was going to start taking threes, because the Mavs kept like dangling that in front of us and saying maybe he'll take threes this season and all that. And so You haven't seen that. And a lot of his game, too, is not there's flashy dunks with the lobs. But other than that, it's good passes. It's solid defense. It's not a ton of blocks, but he is altering shots and things like that. And so it's not stuff that jumps out on the page at you if you're not watching him day in and day out. He's affecting winning for sure. But he hasn't taken this huge numbers leap where all of a sudden he looks way better. And then in a game like this, where he just gets outplayed by Zubac, because Zubac has been really good this season. Zubac and Norman Powell have been really good, and one of the reasons why this Clippers team is really good this season.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really it. I think defensively he's been good this season, like Dereck Lively has. Like all of the numbers has shown improvement from last year to this year. But yeah, there hasn't been like you watch like, oh my God, look at how much better he is. He does X, Y, and Z better. But I do think he's gotten better in a lot of ways. But yeah, tonight was just rough all the way around. I mean, I don't really know.
Yeah, it was a tough one for him. And if you both of your bigs are rough, and you know your two main offensive players, Dinwiddie and Klay, shoot 2 of 15 from 3, you're not going to win a lot of games like this. Coming up, let's talk about how the Mavericks defended the Clippers. I have one big question about that, and then we'll talk about what we saw from everybody else in this game. Coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. It's America's #1 sportsbook, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Speaking of the NFL, got some games coming up. Cowboys. Who are the Cowboys playing next? Doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter. People still care about the Cowboys. The people I talk to here are just not into it. Cowboys, Buccaneers. Cowboys 3.5-point underdog at home. And then they've got Cowboys, Eagles. Ooh, December 29th, 10 days from now. 10.5 point, underdog for the Cowboys on the road against the Eagles. Feels like not enough, but maybe they're getting some extra points there. You can put down $5 on either of those. Maybe put something on the other team playing the Cowboys, and then maybe you'll feel better about it. And then if you win, you get $150 in bonus bets if that's your first bet and it wins. So check it out. FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Slightly, let's get into the rest of this game. I got one question about the Mavs defense. It goes back to the playoffs. Why do the Mavs play the Ole defense against James Harden and let him just drive into the lane every single time? They play this where James Harden's left-handed, so when you're defending, you're standing in front of him, and he tries to drive past you, and they let him go into the lane and stay on his hip. It's almost like exactly what he wants. And then he gets the decision I'm going to go for a floater, maybe get fouled. I'm going to make a pass out, or I'm going to throw a lob up to Zubac, depending on which defender comes up instead. It's almost like they're giving him exactly what he wants. It goes back to the playoffs where it worked in their favor, but didn't in one game. And I just don't understand why they do that specifically with him.
It's because they want him to take those floaters. I mean, he was 6 of 14.
He didn't really.
So he was off on those floaters. I mean, they mentioned that stat in that game 4 last year when he hit like 10 floaters. Like, James Harden's shooting like 20-30% on these floating shots.
Yeah.
Season. So that's what they're wanting out of him. And it's just, one of the first plays of the game, Harden is grifting and gets a 3-point foul call. Like, you just got to be really careful when you're defending a guy like that. So, that's the shot that they wanted him to take, and he took him. And, I mean, he's one of the best scorers that this league's ever seen, even in his older age. So you try to take away certain things, and he's also one of the best playmakers this league's ever seen. So you try to take away certain things, force him into certain things, and, you really just kind of have to pick your poison with a guy like this, similar to Luka.
Yeah, and he wasn't hitting those floaters, but I think what it did is it allowed the Clippers offense to get the Mavs defense moving. When you get the Mavs defense moving, they have to make more decisions, you have to rotate more, you have to run around more, and I thought that allowed the Clippers to get into some action and get they got a bunch of open threes on that. Norman Powell felt like got some open shots. He was 10 of 19. Norman Powell had a really good game, 29 points for him. He's just been awesome. He's their leading scorer, by the way. I think that may have caught a lot of people off guard when you look at the Clippers right now, that he's their leading scorer on the team. But I thought their offense letting James Harden get into the lane that many times, let him make the offense move, and that hurt the Mavericks.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of problems defensively, especially in the third quarter. Zubac, there was no answer, like none. The Mavericks bigs were just getting sautéed.
So why didn't they send help? That was another question I was going to ask. Why did they ever send help? Because they just let Lively die alone. I know you want your best defensive big to learn and to win those matchups one-on-one and not to give open threes, but to never send help. They sent help one time. Omax just like flew over and tried to help on him, and I don't think I saw help any other time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea, and I think this was it in the playoffs last year. It's like, hey, you know what? We'll live with the Zubac's post up possession.
Yeah,
like that's like if we just look at it analytically, like that's a possession we live with. But it's just it feels like he converts on those quite a bit. And I agree. There was one possession, I think it was after the end one, where he gets the ball in an entry pass, 10, 15 feet away from the basket, and that's when you send help right there. Like if he gets the ball in the low post, like right on the block. That's a dangerous situation because the help has to come immediately, and he could just pretty much go right up. But if he has to back down, you could send help at any given moment right there. And those are the ones where it's like, why aren't we sending two? Like, why are we letting Lively get back down under to the stanchion?
It's what the Thunder do all the time. They send double. They throw another guy in there, whether they have Isaiah Hartenstein out there or not. They send another guy and help a lot. And I just thought that was a missed opportunity for the Mavericks, and just where they just let Lively die on the post up, and Zubac has been a really good post up big this season. But maybe they also want him to grow. Maybe that's part of the growing pains. It's just, all right, you take him one-on-one and you grow from this and you learn, because Lively does learn. I thought in the first half he did much better than on Zubac. He got scored on the very first play, and then the next play he didn't score a couple more times after that. And the second half it was like back to he was scoring and getting those fouls again. But
it's all about just trying to prevent where he's getting his touches on the court, and they just didn't do a good enough job. Those high screen and rolls really killing the Mavs too. With either no backline help at all or it being late. I mean, I remember a possession where you have to remember in a game like this, there's lineups that don't see the court ever together. So there's defensive miscommunication and stuff defensively. Guys are maybe places that they are not usually in. There's a possession where Hartenstein. Zubac slipped to the rim, and you could tell Jazz was the low guy who was supposed to rotate down and just tag the roller, and he never did. And Quentin Grimes was sort of telling him, "Yo, like that's you got to slide down there." But I mean, it's just whatever.
That's how I feel about it. Can we talk about Luka and Kyrie not playing in this game? They have a bunch of days off. There's 3 days off. They last played Sunday. This is now Thursday they're playing. And Luka has a heel contusion in practice, apparently, or a heel contusion in the Warriors game. Some people are looking back, and even Mark Follow mentioned it before the game here, that they think it happened early in that Warriors game where he tripped.
That's what I assumed it was.
Yeah. And then he misses a couple days in practice with the heel contusion. Kyrie, right shoulder soreness. I thought the Kyrie thing was just literally giving him a day off. And then he doesn't. Then he's questionable, and then he doesn't play in this game. Are we playing the conspiracy music where they just wanted to give him a full week off? Because they basically get a full week off because they don't play again until, Saturday. So it would be a week off if both of them are out.
I'm just going to assume this is one of those, hey, this is, game 3, the series is tied 1-1, I'm playing type of things.
Oh, yeah, contusion.
And I think maybe the Mavs feel like, hey, there's no need for that. It's early, it's still early season. It's December. Like, I do kind of agree with the idea of if Luka isn't 100%, and we think maybe there's a chance where if he plays tonight, he might suffer a setback, or it might prevent him from recovery. I agree with sitting him. So I just want to say that it does.
You're good with him
from a fan's
both.
perspective.
If both could have played tonight, you're okay with sitting both.
I guess it really depends. I mean, it sucks punting games. That's what you're doing. Whenever it came out last night that Luka was out, I thought, okay, the Mavs can still win this game. And I by the way, I think the Mavs do win this game if Kyrie plays. Like, it's just their offense just completely.
They needed one more guy.
They needed just one of them.
Just one all-star.
They
were one all-star away from winning this game.
I saw a funny tweet, I think it was, or Zeet, I guess I should say, after the game that was, man, this Mavs team is just an MVP candidate and all-star away. It's like, that was my takeaway.
But you saw a lot of their role players doing some things. It's just they need the.
That's what I'm saying. They just just one MVP, one all-star. Can we get that?
I think the Wizards still need that too.
The Wizards might need more than that.
Can we get the Wizards that?
But,
there you go. Oh, go ahead.
It's a little annoying. Oh, do you think there's a conspiracy afoot?
No, I think I think they did sit them because they weren't 100%. And I think you're right. They would have played if it was but I don't have any inside info on it or anything. But I think they could have, from the nature of the injuries, at least the ones that they told us, they could have played if it was a playoff game. But then they decided to sit them. And I think I think I'm with you. I'm all right there because it's about we're here for a long time, not a good time this season, or not a quick good time
I
this
hope you're
season.
here for a good time.
Not a short good time, right? Like it's about the playoffs and it's about the playoff run. And if Luka and Kyrie play, and all of a sudden Kyrie like tears something in his shoulder and he's out for 3 months, then here we go. So
Plus, we were talking before the show. It could be something that was like, hey, they could play tonight, but if they don't play, then that's almost a full week off here.
Right.
And they'll be
That's
like
what I was
100% ready to go. Which would be my guess as to what's going on. Where if it was like if the Mavs had lost 3 in a row or something, it was like we got to get a win tonight.
yeah, we're sitting in a good spot. You're playing with fire a little bit in the standings, but not too much.
Oh, I agree. I think it's annoying. If I were a fan at the game, I'm walking out saying, "Where's my?
Yes,
I want my money back."
That's right. That's the thing that's really annoying. And our conversation about TV ratings the other day. I mean, this is one of the things.
Yeah.
But with teams like the Warriors falling apart right in front of us.
Yeah. I mean, we saw that coming a mile away. The Warriors were going to crash.
Yeah, but they were down like 57 or something. They're down like 50 against the Grizzlies tonight.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is all of the teams that are in the little proximity of the Mavericks lost or are losing.
Yeah, or just are falling apart. So so they're in a good spot, and they've earned that they can do that a couple of times this season, and maybe this is one of the ones.
Yeah, I mean,
guys, thanks for watching Locked On Mavs, hanging out with us. We're a daily 5-day a week and every single post-game Dallas Mavericks show. We'll go all through Christmas too. We don't care about our families. We'll just do shows after every single Mavericks game and all that. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.
Peace out.
Oh.